Hi, hello, hi, and welcome to all our hearts and minds. Thank you again for tuning in. We're here to discuss all things that have been on our hearts and minds, the good and the bad, the concerning or uplifting, or just straight talk. We're your hosts, Kimi, our passionate heart,
Yeah, yeah.
and me, Jeanette, our mind and chronic overthinker. Let's get into it.
Yes, so much to talk about.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
so much. Well, first, before we jump into the episode and get into
Mm-hmm.
our checkup, this week or this month, it's February,
Yep,
shortest month in the year, also
that's
known
right.
as Black History Month in
Mm-hmm.
in North America.
Or
And
as Kanye would say it, what would he say
he
now?
said, "Isn't
Black
it
Future
crazy?
Month?
Black Future Month. Isn't it crazy now that you mentioned that last year we had this whole thing where we were talking about Black History Month and the concept that Kanye was trying to do with a
Mm-hmm.
collective of celebrity black celebrities called Black Future Month, and it was just building a future and looking forward and not so latched onto the past, which the past
Mm-hmm.
always plays a part in the future. But I get kind of the concept. But look how the things have turned from one year. In 1 year, Black Future Month, I do believe in the concept, but the fact that Kanye was leading it and he turned out to spiral into complete anti-blackness,
Right?
anti-everything, it was just like, ooh. So anyway, just wanted to shout that out. So happy Black History Month to all our listeners who celebrate, no matter what your ethnicity. If you're down to celebrate Black History Month, it doesn't matter where you come from. We're all
Right?
about talking about the culture, the history, where things come from, and of course where we're going. And this month we'll probably have a few episodes around that. We'll talk about the future, but we all know the typical Black History. We like to put our own little spin on it. And
Mm-hmm.
next episode we'll definitely be getting some topics, maybe shouting out some black owned business,
That's right.
local. But happy Black History Month, everybody. So now let's get
Yes.
into our checkup. How are you feeling? Is your blood pressure on a normal level?
Yeah, thank God.
Thank God.
But sometimes it gets a little bit stressful. There's been
Mm-hmm.
just life and work and all sorts of stuff and just juggling everything. But you
Yeah.
know what? I really can't complain and I don't want to complain.
Mm,
As a matter of fact, that's something that I want to change this
mm,
year. And so, like, even those hard days, try to find the joy in it
yeah.
or try to find something in it instead of focusing more towards the negative part of my day. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like, that's something that's so easy to like fall into. So, and I do that, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it because I'm alive. I'm above ground.
Yeah.
So, that's a good start right there.
Oh
That's
yeah.
enough to be happy
Trust
about,
me.
right?
There's some
So,
people. There's some people who, you know.
right? With everything that's happening in the world, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm cutting back on stress. But yeah, this past week was a little bit stressful. At
Mm,
work, there's a lot going on. And so, for the most part, I mean, another week is done. Another week
okay.
is gone, and we're coming up to a new one. One has started again. So, just keep it pushing. How about you, girl?
I like that concept. We call this a checkup, and the doctor always needs to prescribe something sometimes. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you said something like, obviously there are things that we can control and things we can't control, but while there are more things that we control than not, that's always a good place to be in, you know?
It is.
And I
It
think
definitely.
you called out something amazing where it's like, I'm gonna try and focus on the positives even though things pop up. And we know you're always gonna have that immediate disappointment or that
Yep.
immediate
Yep.
frustration. But how do we counteract the frustration sometimes when your day or your week is just not going
The
in
way
your
you
favor?
wanted to, or it's too stressful on you, or there's a whole lot of things that happen in our day-to-day living. And I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like sometimes if we would have more gratitude,
Mm,
you
yeah, for
know,
sure. Yeah.
it's funny how you'll get through those moments.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like having just simply gratitude to be alive and
Yeah.
to, yeah, but overall, life is stressful.
Yeah,
So,
it's never not gonna be anything. It's never always gonna be smooth sailing as an adult in a capitalist society.
right?
Absolutely not. Okay, well, I'm glad, and I love that perspective that you shared, and it's always a good reminder. It seems something so simple, but honestly, it could, in the hustle and bustle, it could be easy to kind of lose sight of. Yeah, as you said, I think it's simple as just being grateful for what is in your control and in your favor. As
Right?
long as you can get up and breathe and think, and you have your mind and your
You
health,
know what I'm trying to say?
there's a lot of
Like
things you can overcome.
a lot. And so I want to choose more often this
Hmm.
year
Okay.
to look at it like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, oh, I love that for you, friend. I love that for you.
Yes. It's
So
hard. It's hard because
yeah,
it's
we know
easy
it's
to
not.
be
It's never.
negative,
It's
as you
never.
can see.
Oh yeah,
In
especially
this
now.
world we have here, it's real easy and it's accepted to be negative. But
No,
to
I
be the
don't.
opposite, it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
and
Yeah.
anybody, and it's funny because for me, I may not be the most bubbly person in the world, but it's like I do believe in positive energy and trying to keep things light as possible, within our
Mm-hmm.
control. And I find like if I'm around anybody too long, whether it's whether you're in a sports thing or church or your family or even at work, or even a friend group, we have different friend groups, and there's
Mm-hmm.
and there's somebody who's I call them a Debbie Downer. I don't know the male version,
Yeah.
but whatever you want to call
No,
him,
Debbie Downer is good. Yeah.
man or male or female Debbie Downer. And I just like when people are like that, I'm like I think they're in misery. They're obviously having something challenging in their life, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that around me. Move from around me with that people.
Nah, bro.
That's so. Anyway, I'm glad you're doing good. So me, I am, all things considered, doing okay. I manage the things that I control. I think about
Mm-hmm.
the future. There's some things going on behind that I can't really talk about publicly, but
Mm-hmm.
I've put it in God's hands, and I am working on. It's affecting my sleep less and less. Let's put it that way. So that
Yeah.
means things are getting more and more in focus or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
you just pray for a good outcome. But
Yeah.
otherwise, me and my
Yeah.
family are good, and that's all I can ask for. All right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
jump into the headlines, just get right into it. We are recording a little bit later this week, so we're
Mm-hmm.
recording on Sunday. So you guys, we're making sure we're getting you your episodes as
You
much
see
and
what
as
I'm
soon as
saying? Just
possible.
trying. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first story I'm going to jump into is we were talking about um, a few episodes ago, we were talking about the TTC and all the incidences that have been happening in the TTC, and
Nonsensicals.
that's our transit system here in Toronto, in our local city. And it's crazy because I was looking at a timeline of incidences, which we
Mm-hmm.
talked about deaths and stuff last year. So let's not even talk about 2022. Forget
No,
2022.
no matter what
2022
it.
is
Mm-hmm.
done. I looked at a timeline and I saw at least 10, more than 10 incidents, violent incidences
That's
that
right.
have happened on TTC.
Mm-hmm.
They may not have led to death or serious injury, but it's scary. This is very, very scary.
Right? Do we
And
want it to here? Like,
no, we
right?
don't want to, but we tend to
It's
hear it a
it's
little
bad
bit
enough.
more.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to make the news more when it's unfortunately super
That's
severe.
true. That
So
is
that's kind
sadly
of just
true.
more like what we're talking about. And so there's a couple, I just saw this timeline. I want people who are listening who may not be from Toronto, or even you live in Toronto and you don't know what's going on because you don't take TTC. But I saw an incident where there was we had two uniformed TTC employees that were swarmed and attacked on a bus in
Wow.
Scarborough. That's our kind
Yep.
of end. That's our ends here in
Yep. That's
Toronto.
our end, yo. That's my end.
They were non-threatening, but these were young 13-year-old boys who did this, which is very scary.
Yep.
A young man grabbed a woman's purse on Broadview Station.
Mm-hmm.
A woman was stabbed in the head and the face in a Spadina streetcar.
Oh my God, Lord Jesus.
Okay, and finally, this is just like four of about 11 or 12 incidences in January 2023 alone. They said
Alone.
a 16-year-old boy was stabbed on a TTC bus near Old Mill subway station. The victim was taken to a trauma center with serious injuries. Okay, so I'm just giving a slight little peek of what's going on here. Then we've had a few that ended in death. And it comes down to what the hell. So we talked about that. And so now the answer, or the short-term answer,
Yep.
is they announced recently in the last week in our city that they are adding more police presence on the buses and the trains and such in the
Mm-hmm.
stations in for where our transit system runs. And some people, interestingly enough, I feel like, and for me, it's anything is better than nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we also know
We
that,
can't fight it though. We can't fight
yeah,
it. Sorry, we can't fight it because
yeah, like we don't want this. So right now, the police is a short term answer that will maybe be, obviously the costs will somehow trickle down to the public, right?
of course.
So TTC is, we're trying to get, I think we know the real issue. A lot of these incidences, to be honest, are not rooted in, it's rooted in people who are mentally ill or have a drug problem. Their mind is not with them. And I could speak, I think I already spoke to it, but
Mm-hmm.
the last couple of times that I've had to take TTC, that's not my regular mode of transportation, but the last couple of times I've had to, and I've seen somebody who I know is might not be mentally 100% there. Am keeping an eye on them. Before, I would let them go by, do whatever it is you want to do. I'm not paying attention. Live your best life, and the best you can. You're obviously going through some life challenges, but I just leave. I let enough alone, right? And I saw this guy yell. Nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
I am watching them like a hawk. Okay,
Right?
I am making sure I don't see any weapons. I don't see any. No, we can't. No, headphones are off. I am
Right?
looking left, right, back, and front, all around me. Okay, we can't afford to do that, people. So
Look
anyway,
at that. No.
Toronto released 80 police officers daily, which I don't think is enough, but okay.
No.
80 police
That's how we
officers
cannot fight.
will be deployed
Mm-hmm.
daily across the transit network. The increased security comes weeks after proposed TTC budget measures. So they budgeted for the police to be on. And honestly, typically, I'm not a fan of increased police presence, to be honest. Two reasons that Kim brought up: cost, and, they tend to target. They tend to stereotype and target people. Like, I mean, if you are there just to make sure everything is copacetic, I'd love that, and make sure safety and people are safe. I love that notion, but my worry sometimes that we have with over policing is you might harass young people who are
Mm-hmm.
in a particular community. That's my only concern. There's no incidences like that. I think we definitely need the police, but there is, something can come out of
Mm-hmm.
it that's not necessarily great. But what were you going to say about this?
Well, my quick take on this is that it is nice to have the police presence only so that those who are in their right mind and want to do bad will think twice.
Mm-hmm.
However, they usually do stereotype, and usually black men get the
Mm-hmm.
short end of the stick.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, now that there is more mental health issues and people who are not being treated or have housing, which
Mm-hmm.
is a big problem in our
Housing thing
city.
is a big issue. Yeah.
It's a big issue. And so, with that being said, now I fear that when they're arresting black men, that will be the excuse that is used. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too deep into it. It
Mm-hmm.
is nice to have the presence of the police there.
Yeah.
We can't afford it, so it can't last forever. So there has to be more of a solution that's a long-term
A long
solution,
term solution. Yeah.
right? How? I don't know. Without stereotyping people, I don't know how they're going to let people on the train. Eventually, they're going to have to stereotype people because how else can you assure people's safety? You really can't unless you do have an ongoing presence
Mm-hmm.
on the train. But you know what? Maybe if they were to attack other issues like mental health and people
Yeah, I
not
think
being
that's
housed,
a longer term. I think we
then
have a
that could
lot.
affect the whole transit situation. But it is
Yeah.
really scary because here in Toronto, like you'll see young kids on the train.
Mm.
And because they live downtown, they're accustomed to taking the train as their source
You know what?
of
I have a.
transportation.
Uh,
And I've seen many a times over my years, people, let their children, 10, 11, 12, ride the train
Nowadays, I think
alone.
I agree. I know what you're talking about, and like when we were kids, that was a thing. But I don't. I think nowadays it's very rare. And even I have one of my good friends. She has two girls, preteen and a teenager, and she does not feel comfortable, sending at least the younger one, would be about 13. on the bus because of
No,
everything
but
that's
some of
going
these
on.
kids, they're using it as transportation to school.
Yeah, they have to, and it's good. Like I grew up, me growing up, I'm happy. Like I know my parent, it was a good option for my parents
Mm-hmm.
being able to be like, okay, you after a certain age, it wasn't until around 12 or 13, and I was usually going with friends. They made sure that we
That's
had
true. Yeah.
buddies. But eventually, if enough of you people in the community are going to the same school, you will. It's mostly your classmates or people you go to school with, right? But
Right.
now, to the point, it's like I think a lot of parents, and rightfully so, I think they wait a little bit longer before like letting their kids
Mm-hmm.
go on a TTC
Well,
alone,
I'll
which
be honest. I wouldn't do it at all.
yeah, which is
Not
better.
until it's totally under control,
Yeah,
the way it used to be, where you can feel safe that your child is safe
yeah.
while riding the train.
And I think
Um,
generally abduction and so many things like yeah, I think now I think a kid should be at least like eight
they
grade eight
shouldn't
and
be a
on,
kid in
not a
my
kid
eyes. They should
like
be teenagers.
yeah, like so that's what I'm saying, like grade 8 onwards, grade 9 onwards. Yeah, the after the before that, no, it's too, not
It's
even
too
just with
risky,
the
you know?
mentally ill, it's just like just your own
Yeah.
kid. But anyway, we'll see how that goes, and I hope it gets a little bit better because
Me too.
TTC
Me
is scary,
too.
really scary nowadays. We're gonna move on to Mr. Alec Baldwin, and we talked
Yes.
about Alec Baldwin, the incident where there was there was an accidental death on the set of his movie called Rust, where he discharged a gun that killed the cinematographer or director of photography for the film he was shooting on. And we thought wholeheartedly, we talked about this passionately.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, it's unfortunate, and there was some negligence, whoever was supposed to manage things. But Alec, we were vehemently thinking that Alec should not face any real charges or penalty. Like he shouldn't go to jail for this because it was a messed up accident, right?
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
now I found out this week that they are actually he's being formally charged, him and along with, I believe, the person who was supposed to manage a gun, which I think, of course, that person should have been. I'm actually, yeah, that person should be charged. The film, yeah, they're called the armorer. So the person, so it's him, the armorer, who I believe was a young
Mm-hmm.
lady. I think we talked about it,
Yep.
and maybe somebody else, but there's a couple of him and a couple other people are being charged. So, but at the very least, him and the armorer. Oh, her name was Hannah Gutierrez Reed.
Okay. Well, we talked about this, but I need to really ask myself this question, like,
Mhm.
why now?
Yeah, well, I feel that behind the scenes, without knowing, like I didn't get too deep into it, but I think behind the scenes there was probably a lot of pressure. I don't think anybody in general believed that he should have been charged, but I think there was a lot of pressure, probably from the woman's family and the other person, who the
To get
woman.
some sort of justice from
Yes,
who?
and I get you, right. I just feel like I don't see the state pushing this unless somebody pushed for it. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you can find charges, and but I feel like
But here's the thing, right? Is that when I think legally, we were going to discuss this more, weren't we? In Wagwan for
yeah,
Real?
you know what? We're actually going to talk about this more in our Raw Gone for Real. But anyway,
Yes.
that's the
Yes.
headline.
And I want to discuss on a legal aspect
Okay.
how I could see it not being pushed too far.
Okay.
Right. But anyhow,
Okay.
we'll get into that
We'll get
in the
into it. But
Wagwan for
that was a
Real
big
because,
headline this week.
yep, Alec, I don't know what to tell you, friend, but I know.
So, okay, moving on to Mr. Young Thug. Young Thug was crazy. There was like a headline going around in social media a couple of weeks, and when you
Mm-hmm.
see a headline, you don't really like. I just see Young Thug and I scroll past because I'm like,
Right. At this point.
the man is just in jail. Like I don't see him coming out. He's in deep doo doo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, big time.
So unless he's coming out, I'm like, there's no update that I really need to hear. And so there was the headline was saying that, oh, young Thug got caught getting drugs in the courtroom. Like, what is this? Is this a clickbait? Is this a clickbait headline? Is this? Am I not reading this right?
No, it's a real thing.
And then I actually came across a video where they're in
Mm-hmm.
a small court And a man in a suit just gets up, walks to him, like goes to like shake his hand. It seems like a little shake of the hand, and it's confirmed that there was like a transaction there. And I don't know if it what exactly, like they did apprehend the man, and I think shake down Young Thug for what it was, but it was like literally one. It was a Percocet pill,
Oh my God.
one Percocet pill,
It's
and I
illegal to do that.
like you got up in the middle of a court where there's
It's illegal. Why would you put
hundred
yourself in any
there's
more? Lord
there's
Jesus.
literally cameras streaming for all types of media outlets, and all types of people, the court, and it's a full court. It's a small court, but it's full.
Yes, I saw the clip, and I was very surprised that he thought he could pull that type of
That was
nonsense.
very brazen. It's like it was like, and some people are
Brazen? You have balls of steel at this point. You're sitting in front of a judge.
I was thinking though, did Young Thug know that was going to happen, or was he just trying to be a good Samaritan? Good Samaritan, because
First of all, you're on trial right now for your life, brethren. Okay? You shouldn't be taking no side.
you should have been like Young Thug.
Nobody.
Young Thug should have just been pretending like he didn't even see that man. If he wasn't a part of it,
head down. Have your head down. Let your lawyer do the talking. That's what you should be doing.
And this is why I think it was on purpose, and that he's trying to play dumb, like he didn't know the person was gonna think. But I think it was on purpose because it was one pill. Like I feel like if the man was just, I just feel like nobody would do that.
No, but here's where I say you have balls of steel, because you obviously don't understand like the level of trouble that you're in. Like,
right?
You don't quite
it's a play thing. It seems like
they're coming. They're coming for you. Okay, and they're not gonna stop until you're in jail for a very long time. You've already had two people roll on you, B. At this point, we need to hang our head low, okay, and let your lawyer do the talking, not accepting transactions of deals for drugs in which you are there for in the first place. If you understand this stupidity, you are there because they think that you're a gang that traffics drugs. And now you're in court, brazen, balls of steel, accepting what is this transaction in the court? You don't understand. You could go to jail for less. You could go to jail for less. So I don't understand why you would think that would be okay and how that would help your case. And why are you paying this lawyer if you're going to be so, you really think highly of yourself?
Yeah. So I don't know, y'all. If you hear, like, watch your video. It's like one of those things you have to see. I can't describe it. There's no way I could describe
He's
this.
an idiot.
You have to literally watch the video to be like, wow, wowzers.
All the case with all this case with your do.
It's hard to be sympathetic for that.
You just gave them a reason to put you in jail.
And it's like, if you're addicted to drugs,
and leave you there.
There's no point. Like, this one pill wasn't going to do anything anyway. So, like, what's the point? Anyway, let's move on from the nonsense to clownery. So the next story, I had wanted to bring this up for a while, but we never got a chance. But because it's Black History Month, we have to talk about this.
Yes, please. I'm glad you brought this to my attention. I'll tell you that.
So in Florida, there was a big hoopla in Florida. Florida and Texas are a mess. First of all, I'm sorry, American listeners. Like, give us a 411. This is wild. So in Florida, they have vehemently, there's a huge debate in particularly the red states in the U.S. about critical race theory, and there's an active campaign to remove critical race theory from the education curriculum. Particularly, it seems in schools, like maybe I would assume it's high school, junior high school, maybe it seems that's where they are particularly vehement about it, but I feel like they even want to scrape it from the universities, which I can't see that happening, because critical theory in general, critical theory is like seemed into or sewn into a lot of the social studies social studies theories, like a base theory across many things. There's
Mm-hmm.
critical race theory, there's critical media theory, there's critical women's, like, it goes on and on and on.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, so a U.S. high school curriculum on African American history has been revised after conservative critics complained it amounted to woke. Oh, a lot. I hate that word. Let me tell you how I hate the word woke.
Oh my.
Woke indoctrination. And
Wow.
so Florida Republicans argued that the draft of the curriculum of a new advanced level course lacked educational value. I want to state, when they talk about a new advanced level course, so this advanced level course would be only for students who are planning to take university. So it's not a standard course that is
Everybody
required.
has to do.
It's not no,
Mm-hmm.
not everybody has to do it. It's an optional advanced level course if it interests a student to take it. Okay, no one is forcing your a student to take it. It is in the curriculum as an option, and these would be for students who plan on going to university.
Hmm.
um Excuse me. So the
Wow.
national, I know, right? And so obviously the US College Board released the official syllabus on Wednesday, removing some of the subject matters that the Florida Republicans didn't like. And it is pretty messed up. So here are a list of the sections of the curriculum that the Florida Republicans objected. So that was Black Queer Studies, internet
Wow.
intersectionality. We talked about it on our What is Feminism episode. If you guys
Mm-hmm.
go back and look at our What is Feminism, intersectionality is a big part um, of that as well. So intersectionality. Then there's Black feminist literary thought, and the
Oh
reparations.
God.
Most importantly, the reparations movement. I wonder why they wanted that removed.
Tell me.
Hmm.
Tell me. Because this is just oozing. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's a white privilege going on here somehow. Because why is it that when it comes to Black history or Black excellence or Black learning of any
Mm-hmm.
kind, there's always some sort of a kibosh that wants to be put on it.
Mm-hmm.
African American studies should be a choice of the student,
Yeah,
right? And
and
if
it
you
is.
want them to go to a higher level of education, you should start them out with critical thinking.
Mm.
And if you are going to allow them to critically think, they should be the ones to decide what courses that they want to take. They're the ones that are
And
funding
you can't
the program.
and to your point here, you made a good point here. Critical thinking. Can you have critical thought and make a
When
critical
someone's
decision
telling you what to do,
when you don't have all the facts?
I don't
You don't
understand
have
it.
all the history, all the context? No, you
Well,
cannot.
that's what I thought, that they're gearing you up to is
Hmm.
going to post-secondary education. And so you should already start to instill critical thinking.
Mm.
So I don't understand why it has to be a decision that's made for them. Let them make that decision. It should definitely be offered, because there is very much a history that's behind it. There's very much progression as a culture and as a race. Yeah. And who are you to say who and should and what not? Why can't they? They're the ones, that are actually funding the programs. Or you understand what I'm saying? Like, you having them attend your school is giving you more money in order to have that school. So if that's a program that Black students specifically are interested in, why are we trying to eliminate it?
Any student at that point, but we know. I mean, if we look at we saw the subject, the subjects, particularly the sections in the curriculum in particular that was issues, and they also, here's some of the main people. And we already know it's Republicans trying to
Oh, you
Get
said the
rid of
magic
the
word.
left, what they consider leftist thought, which maybe you could say that. So there's Kimberly Crenshaw, who was the theorist and the the person who really fleshed out
Mm-hmm.
the concept of intersectionality. Bell Hooks, RIP, like our Bell Hooks is all over the universities. If
Yeah.
we take sociology and women's studies,
Mm-hmm.
and then Tanisi Coates. He's another big person in the Black African American author, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of speaks a lot in a political issues in the black struggle, and so I think it's just Republicans trying to dominate the conversation, remove a more left, or I hate saying left. I hate putting this as left, right, moderate. These are not left. These are just, this is history. This is culture.
Period.
If you
You
want to
can't
call it,
erase it.
you want to call
You
it
already
political.
tried. Like
Yeah.
you already tried to erase our history.
Mm.
We've had to take it out the mud to find out who we are because it was destroyed many, many years ago, many centuries ago. You've tried, there was an effort to annihilate any connection to the past or our ancestors. So why are you taking that opportunity away? And this is where I feel like the white privilege thing is coming in somehow over here to the left. And I don't want to make it about a white and black situation, but
Mm.
I do feel like the people that are gunning for this are not black.
Oh, of course not. Unless
So
they're brainwashed. Well, I don't know. Black Republicans. I don't know. You never know.
yeah, they're a different breed. That's all I gotta say. They're a different breed of
They're
people.
drinking the Kool-Aid over there, you know?
They done drank the Kool-Aid, okay? And they need to put the damn Kool-Aid bottle down because it's getting to their head now, for real, for real. But ultimately, I think it should be the decision of the students
Yeah.
because you're there to, like, the whole concept of education is to enlighten the upcoming scholars, right? And so they're scholars that need to be enlightened. You shouldn't be telling them what they can and cannot learn. You shouldn't. You offer these programs if there's a lot of attendance, then why do you feel it necessary, and who are you to tell whether or not it's making a difference or whether or not it matters, or like who are you to who got the job to decide that
Mm.
whether this is a good program or not. um yeah, but I have a lot of views on that, and anything that's, I guess, more black oriented, for some reason they always have to, you know when it gets too far past where it's supposed to be in their eyes, they kibosh, you know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
But
So
it's funny because, well, you know what? In other, this is Black History Month. It's atrocious.
it is.
Get it together, Florida.
Please and
So
thanks,
I
ratchet
just
ass
want to
Florida,
jump
for real.
into our last main headline. The story there I saw coming, Florida again. Florida, what is wrong with Florida? Well, we already know
Ratchet
Florida,
ass Florida.
right? Florida, boy, Florida. They said there's this big sting operation that was done where they found that over 7,600 fake nursing diplomas were issued in Florida. There have been people of these persons who have owned these fake nursing diplomas. 25 were charged. This was a
Wow.
huge FBI investigation. That's why it is awful. I think the main headline, the nursing school, the Florida nursing school sold over 7,600 fake uh, diplomas. And
Wow.
the thing is, the states that were involved were Florida, Delaware, New York, New Jersey, and Texas.
Wow.
And I think because some of these states have a little bit more, like, like in California, I know California and the states, from what I read, they have a really strict, you know, rules for the nursing certification in that particular state. I'm
Yeah.
sure every state has strict rules, but maybe I think you can do a little bit more crossover between these particular
Yes.
states versus, like, maybe in California, you have to do a little extra, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the name of the school, what schools were named? Oh, they named a few. It was more than one. And they're all defunct. So they have
Wow.
three schools, probably small local college schools, all in Broward County, Florida, and all schools are now defunct. Interesting.
Wow.
They said the school distributed more than 7,600 diplomas. Oh, the diplomas were worth over $100 million, or roughly
Wow.
15,000 per diploma. This
Wow.
is huge. So what they did is recruiters helped aspiring nurses obtain fake nursing degree diplomas and transcripts from accredited Florida nursing schools. Okay, so well, the thing is, here's what I'll have to say. Here's what I've gathered from like scanning, and anybody who's listening says who feels like the information is not accurate, feel free to email and correct me. From what I understand, they said the aspiring nurses use the fake degrees to qualify for national nursing board exams, so not on the national level. if they
Wow.
were if they passed the exam, they were eligible to become licensed in several states. Once licensed, they were able to find jobs, across the field wherever their interest. So here's how I read it. It's bad. On one hand, it's scary, be like, oh, somebody didn't go through the right channels. However, you still, at the end of the day, even though they gave the fake degrees, it is a shortcut. But at the end of the day, these nurses still had to take
A test.
a test
Yeah.
that would make them nationally eligible to even be to take another exam specific to another whichever state that they live in. It is a shortcut, but however, this
But
tells
it's a
me
shortcut that could risk somebody's life.
it could, but I'm more thinking that they still have the need the education and the knowledge to do this. They
Yeah.
still need to do the exam. What I'm saying, this is just a shortcut because you need some type of diploma or
Yeah.
certification before
Right.
being eligible to do the exam. So maybe it's somebody who already, maybe in another country, or they already were studying in another
Right.
program and they never
Okay.
finished. So I'm saying they still need to qualify somehow, but this is just like a shortcut. So that's how I read it, like how you're
Yeah, but
describing
you
it.
know what? Let me tell you something. There's one industry that may not want you fish take shortcut. You understand? I don't want you to even have the mindset of taking a shortcut. I understand that sometimes when, people from different countries go to other countries, like if they were to come to Canada, they might not have the education level or the equivalents here in Canada. And I get that, and it sucks. I do. I understand that. However, if you're of the mindset to take shortcuts, will you take shortcuts when you're taking care of me?
Hmm.
I'm just saying it has to be that drastic because these nurses, as we've talked about before, they're literally holding your life
Yeah.
in their
Well,
hand.
just to let people know where everybody's left it off. So now the feds, the feds have it. They have information. The information has been released to the state, and they are leaving it to these individual states to decide whether they're going to charge these individuals at the state level,
Of
because
course they're
these
not,
things are
because they need nurses.
right. Well, see, that was what I was found interesting. So I think of all the there's already 7,600. I think only a handful have actually formally been potentially charged within a state. But yeah, that's a story. One last thing on music news: the Grammys are tonight. We're going to talk about it next week. We're going to have a whole rundown on what people are wearing, what we thought of who
Yes.
won, who was snubbed. Look out for that next week. So that's our music news. And we're going to wrap
Mm-hmm.
up until we get into our next segment. And now we want to jump into our first segment that we touched on, and that is Wagwan for real.
Oh, for real.
And in this segment, we look at stories and issues that have been going on that just don't add up, don't make much
Right?
sense. They don't make much sense. We
None
hear,
at all.
we hear
Mm-hmm.
them, we see them, and we have to ask a hard question: What Wagwan for real?
For real.
And so this week we want to talk about Alec Baldwin being formally charged for the killing or the death of, the cinematographer on set. Unfortunately, it was chilling. It was a crazy story that we heard, last year, and when Kim and I talked about it on the show, we were like, it's tragic, it's unfortunate. There was definitely some negligence somewhere, but the fault does not fall on Alec. And
At all.
I wholeheartedly believe that. However, I think where some fault might fall in on him is he was actually a producer on the actual film. So let's say you have a company or whatever, whoever the production company and who's running the production company. I think any production company who was involved in this film would somehow be at fault because it's the negligence um, that may have led, which most likely led to the death of this woman. Her name was Halnia Hutchins, just to give her
Mm-hmm.
name to a face. And so the charging document outlines at least a dozen acts of emissions of acts or emissions of recklessness. So a lot of they name some of the things that could have recklessness that could have led to this, right? So not using a replica firearm for an unscheduled rehearsal, letting the armorer leave the set against protocol. Leave the set was against protocol, deviating from the practice of only receiving the gun from the armorer, not dealing with safety complaints on set, not performing required safety checks with the armorer who was hired without adequate certification.
Wow.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
And they want to try to put that on Alec. Wow.
Right? And
Okay.
to your point, so the actual formal charge is manslaughter. So involuntary manslaughter. That's the actual formal charge for him and the armorer. And the armorer is a woman or the person who's supposed to be managing all the prop things, right?
Yep.
And again, I think we talked about the actual armorer. I'm sorry, but I think I hate to say it, like I understand why the armor would be, but Alec Baldwin, like he's a guy. He's reading his script. He's in his trailer.
Yeah, exactly.
He might be talking to the director and the producer, but he doesn't know not one shit. All he knows is he gets a prop gun in his hand and he's doing a scene, right?
Or at least that's
Um,
what he thinks he's getting in
well,
his
that's what.
hand.
Well, yeah. So it's interesting. Like I think from him being an actual a producer on the movie, maybe I could see why. But I feel like this is kind of targeted. Like somebody wants someone to blame, and I understand it's hurtful.
But
Somebody
what I
lost their
don't
life.
understand is how do you blame the talent? That's what I don't get. And
Hmm.
they're going to have to try to come from a different angle as a producer.
Hmm.
But they're going to have, from a legal standpoint, you would have to, first of all, be able to prove that he did this intentionally, which that's why they're not, charging him for murder,
Hmm.
because there's no mens rea, there's no intention behind his action.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, he's a victim out of this whole thing. He's a victim as well because he too had to go through trauma. He shot and killed a woman.
Hmm.
So, right. So I think that if they, as producers, are able to prove that they have a contract of some kind, or that with that particular arms dealer, that they have a contract between them that it's on you, like a waiver, for
Mm.
instance. Um, I think them trying to go after the talent is kind of scary
Yeah.
because we're not going to see many movies that will have guns then. So if Alec Baldwin goes down for this, we will see a decrease in actors that are willing to use guns, without them themselves having an education or some sort of knowledge behind handling guns. Now, as the actor Alec Baldwin, um, I don't think he has any sort of responsibility in this as the actor because he was given a prop. Whether it was a replica or not, to
Hmm.
him, you have to be able to tell that an actor would know the difference between the two. And that's not a part of the protocol
Yeah,
of
that's not his
becoming an
skill set.
actor.
Yeah, no, no.
Exactly. So, right? So, and also as an actor, you could also be signing a waiver of some kind,
Mm.
especially if you're working on a set that has explosives or has guns. This is really sad because
Mm.
if you watched Alec Baldwin's career,
Yeah.
He's now starting to get back to himself.
Yeah.
He was going through, substance abuse and stuff like that, and he's gotten himself back on the straight and narrow, and he's doing what he loves to do. So the fact that he is not he every time he acts, he's going to think of this movie. So, and what has happened to him. So I don't think that we should hold a victim accountable, especially when, how would he know? Right. And as a producer, there's multiple producers on a film, multiple. So you're going to tell me that they all were in cahoots?
Well, it's interesting because I saw a in the article that I kind of picked up that gave us a little bit more details. So we talked about, okay, so there's three people involved here that I'm seeing. Obviously, Alec, because he's the face of everything.
Yep.
Alec Baldwin. Then there is a lady. Her last name they refer Gutierrez Reed. Her name is Gutierrez. Her last name is Gutierrez Reed. I think it's Hannah Gutierrez Reed, right? And then there is an assistant director by the name of David. What's his name here? David something. I don't know. Hold on one second.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh, it doesn't matter. Something Halls. His last name is Halls. And so what is the armorer, which is Hannah, is saying is that she was had a prop gun to be used for the scene for rehearsal, because not only was this wasn't even a shoot, this wasn't even like an official, when you're like shooting the scene, this was
yeah.
supposed to be a rehearsal of the scene. The
Wow.
woman died because of a rehearsal on the scene. Oh my lord, have mercy. So her lawyer says she will be fight the charges, and she has blamed the person named Mr. Hall for
Hmm.
not letting her know that a real gun was to be used in the moment when the fatal shooting occurred. She said Hannah asked Halls if they could use a plastic gun for the rehearsal scene, and he said no, he wanted a real gun. Okay. Hannah asked to be called back into the church or the scene, wherever they were doing this,
Yep.
if Baldwin was going to use the gun at all, and Halls failed to do that. So basically saying that nobody told her that the real gun was going to be used, right? So, but there's some kind of missing.
There's a piece that's
There's
missing,
a
and I
missing
feel
here, and this new person, this the Halls, Dave. His name is Dave Halls. So Dave Halls is assistant director, like I said. So he's the one who handed the gun to Miss Alec Baldwin, and he told him it was an unloaded gun. So there's this two. First of all, this assistant director shouldn't even had the gun in his hand.
right.
This person
Okay.
should not have. The gun should have went from the armor. Who the armor is a person who's managing all these
Exactly.
things, to Alec Baldwin. And armor does all her safety, whatever it is that they do. Don't know. This first time I heard that
Yeah,
these
but
things
that
are
should be that. But that should be a safety procedure that the armor is actively
enforcing. I
aware of.
get your point. I'm assuming she should be aware of it, right?
Well,
But if not, even if let's assume she is, but say there's an assistant director, there's a hierarchy on set, right? And I'm assuming so the assistant director is like, no, 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 we have to use the real gun. No, you have to pause right there and say nobody's getting anything, because this and this are the rules for
why
handling.
are you hired? Why
Yeah,
did we
that's
hire you?
yeah. You need
Why
to
didn't
kind
we
of
just get Billy Joe Bob that delivers the coffee to come
right,
and do this then?
right. So that's kind
Right?
of where the negligence and the safety is an issue here. And again, I think it's just a bunch of mess, but there's not one person I feel. One thing I can say is Alex it's not Alex's fault.
It's not Alec. He just took the gun and thought it was a prop.
I don't know. There's a lot of semantics going on where what I'm reading. But anyway, to the implication though is if they are charged, the maximum penalty is 18 months in prison and a $5,000. So I mean, not I
18
mean,
months of this man life have to go down the drain?
yeah, that's the
Wow.
maximum. I think there's a way for him. I think to your point, I think that's what you were trying to say earlier, is that he's likely gonna. It's gonna be light work for him to get off. Let's put it that way,
Yeah.
because there's just not enough. I
There's
think.
just not enough evidence that you can even charge him with, like, whenever I see like in a murder of this kind
Mhm.
that they're going to manslaughter, it's because they can't prove much. They can't prove much, right? And there's so many moving parts that more times than not, all you need is one person to think that he's innocent, and you have a hung jury. That's
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
So, and most people, right, they're going to play up on an everyday man going to work. This is like Alec. He went to work, he was doing his job. And can you imagine? Now he's in court being charged with manslaughter.
Mhm.
So that appeal alone, if ever it goes in front of a jury, would just be, it would be icing on the cake. He would walk, and which he should, because he went to work.
Yeah. So,
Excuse me,
whew.
that's it, that's all. We don't, they're trying to make it complicated and bring him in on this and that. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, they damn well know that he is not liable for that. He's not. So they're trying to reach out of their backside. That's why they're coming with this talks of, oh well, him as a producer.
Yeah, that's what I feel. So, okay, here's my question for you. So, we kind of went through everything and we see what's going on, and we're fairly confident that Alec can come off. The assistant director and
Not
the
unscathed. Not
not unskilled. Well,
unscathed.
his reputation is down the drain.
I would not be surprised if we don't see him act ever again.
Yeah, I feel like
This is
Hollywood.
traumatic.
Hollywood is very forgiving, though. We've seen a lot of people.
No, him himself not wanting to act.
I don't. I don't know. I think they resume. I think they resumed. Did they resume film? I think it'd be messed up if they resumed filming, but I think they might have resumed. You know what? Let me see.
I remember they stopped.
Let's see if they are gonna. I think this movie should not see the light of day. But let me see. Resume filming. Rust, Alec. Let's see if they're gonna do it. Let's see.
They better not.
What?
Don't tell me they resumed it. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
So Nobody
who would want to watch this movie?
Oh, how sinister our world is. Oh my gosh, I gotta imagine a line.
Yeah, they actually, they're saying actors and Instagram spat as Rust to resume filming despite the charges. So despite the charges on Alec and Hannah Gutierrez Reed, they're gonna still film this. I'm sorry. You know what? I think, who do you think? Knowing this new piece of news, I think the family or the people who were impacted, because the woman who died was not the only person impacted. I think there was somebody else who got shot. They were, but they lived. I don't know how serious that other one was, but yeah, they resumed filming. No, I think that's wrong, and maybe that's what was what do you call it? The straw that broke the camel's back. The family was like, "Oh, really now?"
But it's still not Alec. Sorry.
True, I agree.
Sorry,
but when you want to
the wrong person,
when you're so angry, you need to put the blame on somebody.
Yeah, but it's not going to bring the woman back.
No, it's not. It's unfortunate.
And now you're just, I don't know. Like,
and they reached a pretty good settlement. I think we talked about this last year. They got a really good settlement for her family. Although money can't bring anybody's life back, as we always say here.
But they did accept it.
They accepted it, so that's why now it's very messy. But anyway, I think Alec.
So you accepted the money, and now you're still gonna charge him for manslaughter? Yeah, miss me with it. Alec will walk.
Yeah, I don't know about anybody else.
Maybe he'll get a slap on the wrist. Maybe he'll have to do some, counseling.
Yeah,
of some kind or something. But he'll walk because you accepted money for it. So you are quite okay with accepting money for the loss of your wife or your loved one, but we're still pursuing manslaughter. But okay, well, hey, we'll see how that goes. But I think that's going to be, an ace for his defense team. It'll be an ace. And if they fumble the bag, there's some serious things that we have to talk about around yourself. But we're going to move on, though. And so we're going to move on into the workout, everyone. work it out. And this is where we work out our hearts and exercise our mental fitness. We do deep dive discussions on things that are, just impacting us, our culture. And this topic, it's sad to have to talk about this, but we do. And so I know everybody knows already about this. And so we've taken the time to really sink our teeth into this topic. And it is about Mr. Nichols. What's his first name again? Mr. Nichols was
Tyree.
brutally beaten by
Tyree.
police officers.
Tyre Nichols.
That's right. Thank you. And so he was brutally beaten by Black police officers. And yes, there was one white officer, even though he is Casper the Ghost right now. But anyhow, in this situation, we want to look at what actually happened. Now, I actually watched as much as I could stomach of this beatdown. And so it was said that Tyre Nichols was stopped at a traffic stop because he was supposedly, which we have no evidence of as of yet, was recklessly driving.
Okay.
And so these police officers, 6 of them, but in the news, you'll only hear of 5 Black police officers, decided to pull him over and rip him from his car and brutally beat this man to death. These were goons, a part of the police department special unit Scorpion. Let's put that name right out there, Scorpion. Does anybody think about roses and flowers when you hear Scorpion? No. So these Black police officers, unfortunately, they went to town on this young Black man. And it was sad to see. It was sad to see because not only were they pepper spraying him in his eyes, they had him handcuffed and they were beating his face in with an inch of his life. And he was somehow able to get away from them. And that's when they really got annoyed and they kicked him. They did all sorts of things to this young man. And unfortunately, he died. Now, what broke my heart when I saw, and this is where I was like, nah, gotta turn this off. Turn this off. There's different angles that you'll see online of this beatdown. And I don't know if the one that I saw was particularly gruesome, but when this young man started bawling for his mother, the reason why he started doing that is he wasn't far from his mother's house. So he literally was bawling down the street to try to get his mom to help him to safety. And when he broke loose, he was trying to run to her house. Now, these Black police officers, I want to put a brief description in your mind of what they're like and what this young man is like. He may be $150 soaking wet, okay? These police officers, like I said, were goons, 250-pound men, big brutes of men, and they were wailing on this man. It was so disgusting to see. And what actually was really disgusting to see was people and how they dealt with it afterward. There's so many different antics. There's so many different nuances to this situation, and we want to talk about a few. So if you want to talk, take away with one of those nuances that we're talking about, Jeanette.
For sure. So something that is coming out right away. Let's put it this way. There is a video that I have not watched because I think the videos aren't being as shared as much because of its violent nature. Even though the George Floyd thing was disgusting as well, I think somebody being brutally beaten. I think it's not available on as much outlets. And I also, after hearing some descriptions of what transpired, I don't want to see five brutes beating down one man, regardless of his size. But
I want to point out his size because he's taking licks from a man that is double his size.
Yeah,
So
multiple
I
men.
want you to put it in perspective
Yeah.
of having 5 men who are 200 to 300 pound men beating on a man that is half their size.
Hmm.
Their punch is going to be a lot more gruesome than someone who is half the size. So in this case, when you have 5 of them, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And you're handcuffed. Yeah, makes it real hard.
So
But
what is
anyhow,
interesting is that I
sorry
saw
about
the
that.
I saw the photo of these 5 officers before I really learned about the story. Again, it took a while, I think, for this story to really, I think, gain traction. I just like I'll be honest, like I may have seen the name, let's say the day before that it really started to ramp up on Twitter, like trending, but I didn't look it up to know what was the context, right? And then, but I happened to be, I just kept on seeing these 5 officers, and when you're seeing something but you're not reading,
Yep.
that with me, that's on social media, unless I'm really stopping to pay attention, like I can be completely honest, it did take me a couple of days to really learn what had actually happened to this young man.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were fired under a week, within, I would say, days, it couldn't have
7 days. Yeah. Oh,
within
no, about 4 days, I would
about,
say.
yeah, I would say less than a week, these 5 men were charged, fired and charged, I believe. And
Yep.
it wasn't until recently there was a 6th officer who happened to be white.
Yep.
His name is Preston Hemphill, and he was fired. He has not been charged, but he has been fired from his role for violations, some procedure violations. So he did not act within the process that he should have followed. And he was actually the first officer to draw Tyre Nichols out of the car before he was beaten. So he did not beat him, but he pulled him out of the car. And so it's interesting, I mean, that he has not been charged. Maybe he will, but I kind of want to bring up the double standard. That's like,
Yep.
first, there's a lot of things about this case.
Yep.
And, first of all, something that right off the bat, people are saying, oh, well, they're black, so this is not racist. Hello? Hello?
Oh my God.
This is about the institution of the police. This
Thank
is
you.
about systematic racism.
Focus,
this
man.
is about anti-blackness that is built into the institution of policing. That's please, people, please think. When we talk about critical thinking skills,
there you go.
Critical theory, this is one of the things where we need to apply.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's
please and thanks.
That's first and off the bat, basic 101. And then the double standard in which the swiftness, these motherfuckers were swiftly terminated.
And in a hurry. Okay.
And swiftly charged.
Around with this.
And some people want to say, oh, it's because, there's a heightened attention on these incidences, and they want to avoid, riots or whatever. I think it was because, I'm going to say it. I think it was because they're black.
Thank you. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it a buck, people.
And I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. But, the mere fact that the white officer, they took more than a week, almost 2 weeks, for the white officer to be named and fired, more or less, he has not even been charged, people. So I want everybody to chew on that. And you let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Let me know.
Take it in, people. Because that's what it is. Even if we were, okay, let's remove this white man because for some reason he's not getting the same press for some reason.
Yeah, yes.
But let's take it back to George Floyd, okay? We're going to take it back because that was the catalyst to real change. And
yes.
Not always for the better. But anywho, let's go there. That officer, they took forever to charge him. And the only reason why...
They had to tear down the whole city.
The whole damn city was... Listen, it took so much uprise, okay? And let's just be honest. There was no immediate request for no body cams right off the
bat. No.
There was not. These police officers, they asked that quick, fast, and in a hurry. They wanted those body cams immediately. And I understand why. And I get that. But if we look at the contrast in how that white officer that blatantly killed and stole the life of George Floyd in front of everybody, okay, how he was prosecuted, how long it took, how much people had to uproar about it. This is quite the contrast. This was George Floyd, that was weeks, almost a month before he even got charged with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have these black officers, and within less than 7 days, they had them charged. They took their license as to, or not a license. They took their badge. They fired them. They did quick, fast, charged, and they're about to get sentenced in a hot minute. So what? Why such a contrast?
Hmm.
It's the same police officers. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, different area, different jurisdiction. I get it, but they're police officers. They're held to a higher standard than just the common day folk on the street. So miss me with it. I don't understand why all of a sudden the standards change when it has to do with a black police officer. And
And
now let's go back to this situation.
Mhm.
Why don't we see this white dude? You're the one that fed him to the wolves, bro. You're the one that pulled him out of the car. For what?
Yeah, I think it's very. I have to say, like, I looked up, like, I heard that there was a white officer charged, and I had to look, and I have to tell you, I had to click on at least two articles, and not until the third one where I actually saw a photo of this man.
Okay. But
So,
yet they have these black men, these black officers, their face are plastered all over everywhere.
mm-hmm.
Their full names, their everything is just plastered for the world to see. Okay, so I don't understand, even within this, the contrast of how they're being dealt
And
with.
here's what I want to say. I don't have a problem with that being the case. Like, these people, these men brutally and sadistically beat Tyre Nichols. Fine, they should be held accountable and everything. What I'm curious about, what my issue is, I am very deeply concerned. I'm deeply concerned that this is not does not the case every time an officer does this to anybody, more or
Right?
less a black person. So it's a double standard for me, and I
All the
just
way
it's
around.
sickening. It's actually sickening to consider
It
that.
really is. It really is.
And so I want, yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say another nuance to this situation here, and the black on black crime.
Mm.
Okay, that was something that was hard to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
As a black woman, it was hard to swallow because I had to ask myself the question: do you not see yourself in him? As you beat him to a pulp, do you not see yourself, black man, in him, black man?
Hmm.
Like, I don't understand how they were able to do that. It's demonic because they are black men as police officers, but they're not always on duty in their full attire. Okay. So they live as black men outside of work. They know what it's like to be pulled over just because you're black. They know what it's like to be brutally beaten by the police. They didn't just come out the womb as police officers. So they had to live as a black man. So now you get a little power underneath your belt. And this big scorpion unit, what, like I said to you before, why is the scorpion unit pulling anybody over? Why would you be doing that?
So,
So now that you've done that, do you not see yourself in him? That's another black man that you're beating to a pulp.
well, that's where I think the whole institution of the police and being institutionalized within a particular group, kind of plays a role. So they're saying that there's a policing theory. So units called like the Scorpion unit and other units that, they create all these random police units, small sectors that are going in to beat the crimes and blah blah blah, restoring the peace. Rarely is it, they call it broken windows policing, and it's been since debunked if you do criminology. And it's an idea that if police make arrests for minor offenses, it will prevent it will prevent more serious ones being committed. And it doesn't technically, there's been plenty of research and studies that saying that it just doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. And so by you brutally beating somebody or over, what do they call it, over policing minor offenses, uh that just makes more arrests, puts more people in jail for no reason, because they even said for he didn't technically, they stopped him for reckless driving, but they had no legal basis for the stop.
At all.
That was a point I found. And so the
You
man
cannot
had to
just pull
die.
someone out of their
you,
car.
you man had to die because you guys were trying to stop minor offense. This is a minor offense.
But did we need six of you?
No,
Did
I think
we
this was
need
a
that
sadist.
many people?
You said a word. You said the word demonic. You said that word. I was using a word. I didn't need to see the video. I don't need to see the video. I saw the picture of the man in the hospital. He was beaten. He was
Oh, pulp.
bludgeoned. He was a pulp on that bed. It was like, whoa. Um, they said it's 13 minutes. So, like, to your point, 6 or 5, whether it's 5 or 6, let's say 5 of them, 5 men, big 200 plus men, coming down on this young man
Who's
who's
really
small,
small in
very small,
stature.
for 13 minutes, they said.
That's what I'm telling you.
It's sadistic. And so the
It.
culture, this unit, like this, because I think it's called Scorpion Unit or any of these small
Mm-hmm.
units, they feel special, they feel entitled. They're like,
Yep.
oh, I have a special thing, and we need to beat this issue. Whether you're doing petty crimes, whether it's reckless driving, whatever the unit is created for, right? So they call it broken windows policing. If we
Mm-hmm.
know for a fact that this type of policing doesn't work, or you don't see the numbers coming down, or all it does is ended up with more people in this prison system, something is wrong. But no,
Right?
but we're in a culture, especially in the US, but there's a culture of over policing. And that's kind of my issue when they have these type of units. If they tend to focus on an area where a certain type of demographic is, and then there's overrepresentation of these people in the prison in this state. In this
Mm-hmm.
case, obviously it's African American and African American people in this Memphis town. And it's disgusting, and they really need to rethink policing over there. And you said black on black crime. I don't really look at it that way. I think they've been institutionalized. They felt special. They feel like, what do they call it, blue lives? They feel like they're the blue.
Yeah.
And they don't feel like they're part of it. They feel like they're better. But like you said, I think, where's the human, regardless of whoever? We're
Right?
human beings. Like, did this man, there's nothing, this you have a special authority as a police officer, and by doing this you abuse it,
You take an oath.
and put
You take an
people
oath that
at a
this is what you,
disadvantage.
like. I'm blown away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm blown away with some of the negative things that I have heard come from this, even from our own black people who it's like, oh yeah, well they should, yes, I do agree that they should go to jail. I
Yeah,
do.
I do.
However, I just feel like the sentiment is, it's almost like dash that black man away, and it's like, but that's the problem. That's what they were thinking. That black man that they were beating up wasn't anything, wasn't a human being. And we can't just dash them away. We have to figure out what the hell the problem is.
Yeah.
Because we cannot. So whether or not, they go to jail, which yes, they should go to jail. However, we need to examine them. We need to learn, why did you feel that powerful? Why could you not stop yourself? 13 minutes?
What is it about the
five different
culture?
mans them beating on you?
What is it
come
about the
on.
culture of policing? What is it about the culture of
Right?
policing
So
that
we
makes them
need to
so
take these.
sadistic?
We need to take these black men and see, where is there a breakdown? Why would they do this? Why would they do this? And I want to say that if they got caught now, they've been doing it for a hell of a long time.
Yeah.
Okay? They've been doing this, terrorizing people, and that's not the way to go. That's not the way to police your community. And so, creating this thug life impression as a police officer is really blurring the lines. It's blurring the lines, and I feel like we really need to sit down and figure out, why would they feel comfortable to go this route. So what is it within our system that we need to break down? what is it that we, because just dashing them away is not going to help. That's what we dash them in the corner and leave them in jail and forget about it until the next. No, we need to figure out why this is happening, and maybe like what you've a point that you had mentioned to me was over policing in the community. Like, is it necessary to have a scorpion unit if your officers are doing the right thing? Like, if they're going out into their community and having the community feel safe, right? Are they communicating with the community? Are they keeping their ear to the ground? Like, what is the problem? Because this can't keep happening. There's a lot going on, and we're gonna have to try to. I can't spin this, friend. I just can't spin this. But what we will say to wrap this up, we're going to exit now, is that we do hope that your hearts and minds were activated on this week's show. So whether you lead with your heart or with your mind, please stay passionate and thoughtful, y'all. Holla back.
See ya. Take care, everybody. Happy Black History Month.
Yes. Brighten it up. Happy Black History Month.